Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive.
Hmm.
We're tackling budgeting this time. And wow, I know it can feel like everyone's got a system, an app, a guru, right?
It's true. It's easy to get lost in all the noise.
Exactly. So we're cutting through all that, distilling it down. We've got this great financial literacy course, tons of practical tips in it.
And some real aha moments, I have to say.
Right, like reframing how we even think about budgeting.
Exactly. That's where this course starts, actually, getting at what a budget really is.
Okay, so spill the beans. What is it then? Because a lot of us, we hear budget and we think diet for our money.
Right, haha, restriction. But it's more like, think of a roadmap.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it guides you where you want to go, helps you avoid those debt ditches along the way.
Those detours can be brutal. So how does this roadmap actually play out in our lives?
Well, one of the first things this course emphasizes is aligning your spending with what you value. Sometimes we spend without thinking about if it really even matters to us.
Oh, tell me about it. Been there. So it's about being intentional, making our money match our priorities.
Exactly. And that starts by understanding those two fundamental pieces,
Right,
income and expenses.
right. Got to know what we're working with.
Like building a house, your net income, that take-home pay after taxes, that's your foundation.
Solid ground. Okay, so we've got our foundation. Now what? This is where that jars analogy from the course comes in, right?
I love the jars. Makes it so visual.
Me too. So imagine your income divided up, each jar for a different purpose. First, we've got fixed expenses, rent, bills, the non-negotiables. The course uses an example of like $1,500.
Right, but that's just to illustrate the point. Everyone's going to be different.
Totally. Then the variable expenses jar, groceries, transportation, those things we have some control over.
Where our choices make a difference.
Yes. And then, of course, we've got to have fun, right? The discretionary jar.
Dining out, hobbies, those little things we enjoy.
Precisely. But also the jar we might have to dip into if, let's be honest,
When life happens. Which is why we've got that emergency fund jar, too.
our safety net. Okay, so we've laid out our jars, but why does this all really matter? We're going to dig into that in the next part of this deep dive.
We often think about budgeting as this restrictive thing, right? Like it's all about just like not spending money.
Yeah, just like clamping down on everything.
Exactly. But this course does such a good job of highlighting how it's about so much more than that. Like, yeah, avoiding debt is cool, but
It got to be more than that. You got to enjoy life too.
right, it's about like aligning your spending with what you actually care about, your goals, your values.
It's less about deprivation, more about, like you said, intentionality.
Exactly. It's about empowerment, like realizing you get to decide. And knowing where your money's going and why that's where that real peace of mind comes from.
And nobody's going to argue with a little more peace of mind, right?
Yeah.
So how do we actually like take all this and make it real, make it actionable?
Right. So this course gives this really clear step-by-step process.
Okay, I like those.
Yeah. And it starts with, like we talked about before, being honest about our income. No sugarcoating.
What's the number?
Yeah, exactly. What are we actually taking home each month? That's what we got to work with.
Okay, so no fudging the numbers. Got it. Then what?
Then comes the maybe a little less fun part, looking at where we are spending our money. But what I love is this course is like no judgment here.
Yeah, shame hills nobody.
Exactly. It's not about beating ourselves up over that time we bought the whatever. It's about, okay, what are the patterns here? Where can we maybe make different choices going forward?
So we're gathering data, not
Yeah.
guilt. Love it.
Exactly. And once we've got a grip on that, then we inject some purpose into it all, setting those goals.
Ooh, goals. Everyone loves a good goal.
Right. And the course points out how much easier it is to actually stick to something when there's a reason behind it, when it matters to us.
Totally. Like
Yeah.
that feeling of, this is why I'm doing this. It's not just numbers on a page.
Right. And they have this great example. It's about planning a vacation. Like, say you're on a tight budget, even then, if you're consistently saving even a little bit.
You can make that trip happen.
Yeah. And without going into debt for it, it's about demonstrating that this isn't about saying no to everything. It's about making choices that get you to what you really want.
Okay, see, this is what I love. It gets that we're not all cookie cutter people.
Mm.
We need different approaches and goals, which is where all those different budgeting methods come in.
Yes. Like, remember we talked about the 50-30-20 rule?
Classic.
Super useful starting point for a lot of folks. And the course uses that example of a $3,000 income.
Breaks it down nice and clearly.
Yeah, 50% on needs, 30% on wants, and that crucial 20% for savings and debt.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's like, okay, I can wrap my head around this.
Right. Instead of just feeling overwhelming, it's like, okay, those are numbers I can actually work with.
Exactly. And I think a lot of times we get tripped up by trying to be perfect budgeters right from the start.
Oh, yeah, we got to be all in, or why even bother?
But this course is so refreshing because it's like, find what works for you.
Because if you can't stick with it, what's the point?
Exactly. And it acknowledges that life happens. We forget to track, stuff comes up.
We are human after all.
Exactly. And that's where the course really shines. It gives us these practical tips, tools to navigate all that.
Okay, so spill it.
Yeah.
What are some of these magical tips for actually sticking to a budget? Give us the inside scoop. How do we make this budgeting thing actually work?
Well, one of the biggest things is giving ourselves a little grace, you know?
Oh, permission to be human. Music to my ears.
Yeah.
Because really, a perfect budget every single day, not happening.
Exactly. And I think that's why a lot of people just give up, right? They have one slip up, miss a day of tracking, and it's like, well, I've blown it.
That all or nothing thinking can really sabotage us. This course, though, it's more about progress over perfection, wouldn't you say?
100%. Like learning anything new, it takes time, practice, and having the right tools can make a world of difference.
Okay, so what tools are we talking about here? What does this course recommend for sticking to a budget even when life gets messy?
Automation's a big one. Have you ever tried automating your savings?
Game changer. It's like you set it and forget it. Money just magically appears in your savings account.
Right. It's like paying yourself first before you even have the chance to spend it elsewhere.
Love that. Takes the willpower out of it. Speaking of willpower, that 24-hour rule the course talks about. Genius for those impulse buys.
Oh, isn't it brilliant? That urge to buy something, it often fades if we just give it a little time.
Hit the pause button. Ask ourselves, do I actually need this, or am I just caught up in the moment?
And, most of the time after 24 hours, it's like, man, I don't need another whatever. Crisis averted.
And money saved. Going through all this, what really stands out to me is how much control we do have. It's not about being at the mercy of our finances. It's about being the architect of them.
Yes. And that's such an important takeaway. This isn't just about crunching numbers. It's about aligning our money with our values, our goals. It's about designing a life we love.
It's like the course is giving us a little pep talk. It's saying, hey, you got this. You have the power to shape your financial future.
Exactly. And that's empowering. So as we wrap up this deep dive, think about this. What's one small step you can take today? Just one thing to start taking control.
Maybe set up that automated savings transfer. Try out that 24-hour rule. Track your spending for a week. Every journey starts with a single step, right? Even a financial one.
And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. Progress over perfection. You might even find yourself enjoying the journey.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into budgeting. Hope you picked up some helpful tips and feel ready to take charge of your financial well-being.
Absolutely. Until next time, happy budgeting, everyone.